Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be here today. I have Amanda Senn with me of the Alabama Securities Commission, and she is going to be speaking to us about women in finance today. Amanda, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Thank y'all for being patient with me. I know we are in a pre-recorded session, and I'm not there with you guys live, but hopefully you'll get a bunch of information and take back, and we can meet and discuss later. Thanks for being patient this morning. All right, so I've been asked to talk about women in finance. And so I'm going to do that, but I'm going to give you a hodgepodge of information because this PowerPoint is definitely a collection of a bunch of PowerPoint presentations that our community has asked us to present before. So I want to tell you just a little bit about the Alabama Securities Commission. I'm Chief Deputy Director over here. We license the financial industry in Alabama. I know some of our colleagues are financial professionals and either on the securities brokerage side or with banking, accounting. But if you hold a securities license, we are the person responsible for vetting your application and providing you that license. We also investigate white collar crimes here related to any type of investment fraud. We have 12 gun-toting cops down the hall, and then they bring those cases down to legal and we prosecute our own. So we are prosecutors. Was hired in as a prosecutor, and the last several years I picked up the legislative and administrative responsibilities as well. But we do it all, and so if y'all ever need anything from us, just let us know. You can find us downtown on our website. Alabama Securities Commission provides our phone number. We enforce the Securities Act, so anything related to a security is within our jurisdiction, investment related, securities related. But we also enforce the Monetary Transmission Act. And I point that out to y'all because cryptocurrency is exploding. And I know several of you have personally contacted me about that. And that the jurisdiction that we have to look into that falls under our Monetary Transmission Act. And so anything that passes along money, PayPal, Western Union, that provides money on behalf of another to a third party is a money transmitter. Our cryptocurrency exchanges are now considered money transmitters as they transmit anything that is considered stored value. So you guys will probably know more than most of our community about money transmission, but I wanted y'all to be cooler than everybody else. We do the mandatory reporting of financial exploitation. By definition, financial exploitation is committed against somebody, my mom's going to scream, 60 and older is considered a senior citizen or one of our vulnerable adults. Industrial revenue bonds as well, but that's not our point today. Our focus today is on women and finances. And you guys, I've been in this job for 14 years and we've talked to groups across the state. And our Montgomery women are pretty sophisticated when it comes to finances, but we still have a lot of work to do. And this organization is a phenomenal organization. It's spreading awareness and information and sharing resources. So I hope that after this presentation and in future, we can continue to promote finances in the Junior League and women in finances. Men consistently outperform women on financial assessments. I know I'm reading off a slide, but I want it to drive home how important this issue is. Women self-report lower levels of confidence in mathematics and financial ability. Average single woman has 3 times less wealth. There are numerous theories about that and facts about that as well, wage disparity. And yet we make up a majority of the college educated adults. So what gives? I threw this slide in here as I was pulling this thing together last minute, but let me jump back to it. So a lot of it has to do with confidence. Studies say that 2/3 is financial literacy, actually having the information, and 1/3 of that is the confidence. And women, we do lack confidence when it comes to that area. I've talked to several of you, I'm not going to name names, that call and ask questions about what they should do with their credit card or what they should do with an investment portfolio or whether they should have an investment portfolio. But there are surveys, though, this just demonstrates our lack of confidence. And there's the citation there at the bottom. But there was a survey that was provided to men and women. And on the women's survey, they were given the response, do not know. The study showed that the women would report that they did not know the answer to the question if that option was given. Another survey was administered and the question, do not know or does not know, was removed from the survey. Women performed almost 10% higher on those surveys and got the answer right when that option was removed. So the studies, sort of concluded that confidence is a big part of it. There are many reasons why, but there are some suggested cultural reasons. And I don't know, I grew up here in Montgomery. I know at Jeff Davis High School, I was not in all of the science classes and computer classes, and most of the men were, or the guys were, they were kids, boys back then. And so we do tend to stay away from some of those, but there are, this cultural movement to promote the science, technology, engineering, and math programs at schools. So we'll see if that will drive, women into finance more. Hopefully it will, because we are typically the ones that, and we always have to plan. And I know this is why we do these type of events, but if you're left widowed or divorced, and especially caring for kids, finance is something that you're going to have to focus on. I get phone calls from women who have lost their husband and they didn't have a clue about what assets they together had as a unit. They don't know where to look for particular assets. They don't know how to balance a budget. And these are things that we need to know how to do. And hopefully you all do. Women in investing in particular is an area where we can do better. And this is just based on my experience with our community here in Montgomery and in Alabama. We provide these services across the state, but there is, based on the conversation I've had with women, a reluctance to get involved in with investments. If you have, especially if you're married or with kids, I know a lot of y'all have financial advisors and planners, but not everybody does. And we have, hopefully many of us are at a point in our careers where we have money to set aside for investing. And so familiarity is something that I encourage women to do. There are plenty of apps, investment apps. I personally, I'm not promoting this. I have a Charles Schwab account, an opened an IRA. If you don't feel confident or comfortable investing, just take a couple $100, open an app and play with it and watch. They provide all types of market reports, daily reports, and you'll learn just by going through the process. But the good news is that younger women are getting into investing earlier. And there are several studies out there that suggest that the pandemic had a lot to do with it. People realized they needed to start saving when jobs were cut, or people did lose jobs or went home to work remotely and didn't have the benefit of their peers to discuss things. That apps, these investment apps, are geared toward younger folks, and so younger women are getting involved there, but also that they are learning from their older friends. So hopefully, maybe in 40, I've been able to impart some of the investment knowledge into our younger friends. So y'all continue to do that and support younger women, and maybe we'll all get involved in investing that way. Let's see, there are, all right, there's a question here, and I have a page for that. So we're going to keep talking about resources and things. So considerations when investing, goals and time horizon. Y'all, if we can start young, we have hopefully a lengthy timeline, and there are different types of investments depending on what you want to do. But long-term goals are usually easier than short-term because there's more risk involved. But those are things that you have to think about, goals and a time horizon. And if you don't have a financial advisor, excuse me, y'all, just a second. Sorry. Getting crazy allergies up here. If you don't have an investment advisor, we have great ones in town. I know there are several members of the junior league that can talk to y'all about this, but you don't have to have one. And I know there's a fee involved. And for some of you, just early in your career and are concerned about fees, and if your company doesn't have a 401k, you can kind of do this yourself, and there are things to help you out. So goals and time horizon, risk tolerance and diversification. How much risk do you want to inherit when investing in the different types of products? Cryptocurrency is just one example of a very risky investment. It's like a roller coaster up and down. And then there's a whole different topic of a presentation for risk tolerance, diversification. But fees is the big thing. And so I wanted to focus on that. This just example here, if you've invested $100,000 at 7% annual return, if your fund, whatever you're investing in, and fees are are required to be disclosed. And if you're interested in investing, you can Google, fees of different type accounts and study them. But with a 0.8% expense ratio or fee, can eat up $70,000 of your money over 30 years in comparison with the 0.4. So just because it's under 1% doesn't mean it won't have a significant impact. So these are the things that a financial advisor would help you with if you had one, or if you want to do it on your own, things that you can think about and Google it, and you can help. There are several resources out there that'll help you get there. But a 401k plan, if your employer's got one, match it at least if you can. Robo advisors, those are just automatic. There are several companies that have robo advisors, but a lot of them are in the form of an app now. Robinhood, I'm not promoting any of these. Charles Schwab, you can take the money and they, through analytics and their own proprietary type technology, can help you invest your money. And it's a lot cheaper than, not a lot, it can be cheaper than going to an investment professional in person. Mutual funds and exchange traded, we'll talk about those in a minute. So let me go back to this earlier slide here. Duplicate slide, never mind, we're coming back. I told y'all this is kind of a hodgepodge, and I was delighted to join y'all, but I would have had this better put together. So what is a security? We talk about investing in different types of products and funds, but they all involve underlying assets, or the asset itself is directly a security or a stock. Under Alabama law, there's a laundry list of things that are considered a security. As you can see, I put the definition out here. Most people would say a stock or a bond, but there are many things. And essentially, it's anything that you can provide money towards with a view toward an investment. So if there's an investment type nature or relationship where you expect a return, that's considered a security in Alabama. I wanted to play this for you guys. This is Wall Street. What most people think about is early Wall Street. And so let's just take a look. This is a buying and selling of a stock. So it's hollering out the ticker number or symbol. And all of this hand movements telling him what he's going to buy. 1 minute, he says he'll have the information. This is the bid. Still negotiating that sale of stock. Got a buyer. He's called it up. He's doing his gesticulations there, and I think we got a deal. Sold. Minutes, guys, minutes. All right. This is the stock ticker. Anytime you pull the newspaper and you see the stock indices, this is what you're looking at. All right, that's Wall Street back in 1920. This is Wall Street today. Transactions can happen in microseconds. And there's arbitrage and there's all kind of stuff going on in the market. So it's such a fast-paced environment now, and things are constantly evolving. And so on the investment side, we have overwhelming amounts of information to think about. It's just fascinating how this field has evolved. But the three basic sort of terms in investing that people think about are the products are stocks, mutual funds, and exchange traded funds or ETFs. ETFs and mutual funds are just different types of securities. You're buying into like a basket of securities, whereas stock represents a single security that signifies ownership. And so that's what you see if you look at the newspapers or the tickers that come up at the bottom of the news screens. These are stock names that are coming up. So I wanted to show y'all. I threw in crypto. I wanted to demonstrate stock performance. So let's just say we have a share of Apple. If you have Apple, you're very lucky. I don't. I wish I'd gotten in early. But this is a report from today's stock performance. So currently, it's doing all right. It's up. That's great. But this is information that you can Google. And if you're interested in getting involved in, sort of managing your own little investment portfolio, I urge you to go to Google Finance or Yahoo Finance, take a look, and you can find all of this information. There's tons out there, market trends on the page, and then study, the past performances. So this is Apple's stock year to date. This is just this year. You see it down and up, a little bit of volatility here, but this is just over the past few months. If you take a look at the last 5 years, however, you can see that Apple has continued to rise. And then you wonder, well, what's going on in 2018? There are a couple of factors. I'm not suggesting that these were certainly impacting the market, but interest rate hike, trade wars, tech scrutiny. There are 5 major companies that form almost over 11% of the S&P 500: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. So if any of those are down, the index is down as a whole. So there's just a lot you can study. But so why does this matter? Why does it matter that we invest our money rather than sticking it into a savings account or a checking account that doesn't earn interest? Because compounding makes money for us most of the time, unless we have a 1929 stock market crash. But our stock market is overall doing well, our economy. So just say you're 19 years old, and you'll invest, just say over the course of several years until you're 65. If you put in $20 at the beginning of each month between the ages 19 and 65 into the stock market, let's just say average 8% right now, $101,000 versus a 0.09% bearing savings account, which is typical. I Googled it this morning, average savings account will yield you approximately $11,000. So compounding matters. Get that money out of savings in your checking account and open a small investment account and stick it into an ETF or a mutual fund. If you're 25 years old, there's still hope. Same numbers, 62,000 versus approximately 10,000. And then 30, for all of you 30-year-olds and up, go ahead and get out there, open your investment accounts. 41,651 is still good at age 65. Many of us will probably be working well into our 60s. So I pulled this slide. So I know I'm trying to cram in a bunch of information just to give you an overview of the investing world. But one of my colleagues put this together. And so when you think about investing and who you're going to go with, like what firm or what person you want to talk to, there are things that you need to consider. So the firm, the type of account, and the product. So products meaning there are different types of securities products. A mutual fund would be a product. There are binary options. There's real estate investment trusts. Those are all types of securities products. Researching the firm that you'd like to talk to. Like I said, you don't have to go to an individual. There are robo-advisors. An individual is helpful though. And I know we've got a lot of good financial planners here. But check to see if they're registered. We do that here at the Alabama Securities Commission. You can call me and I'll tell you whether they are and if they have a history of misconduct. What are their fees? That's the big one. And I'll show you a chart again to emphasize earlier what I said about the 0.4% fee versus the 0.8. How does the fund make money? Are you comfortable with them? And what is their past history? That's what I said about checking their reports. So minimum fees, let me show you the chart. So here's a pretty chart that my colleague put together. The blue line here is an account that earns 4% annual returns, 4%, but it has a fee of only 0.25%. So you're way up here at 210. Down here, the green line, same interest bearing, same account, it's earning 4% interest bearing, but the fee on it is a 1% fee. So you've got a $30,000 difference just here with fees. So pay close attention to those. That's what we urge all the time in the Securities Commission. Research, I'm going to skip through that one because I want to talk about fraud for a minute. And because I get all of the reports here in Alabama, and I get reports from Montgomery and this community, and y'all and some members of the junior league have been victims of fraud, and we don't need to lose money to fraud. We can't help sometimes market losses, but we can with fraud. So in the white collar world, it's usually just some reinvention of the wheel. And there's a good quote here that we'd like to talk about. A man who is admired for the ingenuity of his larceny is almost always rediscovering some earlier form of fraud. The Ponzi scheme is probably one well recognized. Charles Ponzi is the one credited with coming up with that. And we see tons of people in Alabama perpetrating Ponzi schemes. We see a lot of scams here in Alabama. And in Montgomery, I wanted to show y'all, there was somebody under the age of 60 who received a FedEx envelope. Okay, it's legit FedEx with a note and a check, a legit check. And they've asked the recipient to deposit this check, and the fraudster, because this is a fraud, it's a fraudulent check, gives the person instructions about what to do with it. Y'all, people in our community have responded to these type frauds and scams. I have a list of them. I'm not going to share that. I keep the confidence here, but just be aware and help your parents and your grandparents with that too. Another little silly one. I got from Department of Homeland Security early in COVID, and there were young women responding to this. There were pop-up tents set up for vaccine testing, and some of our young adults, mostly women, were out there filling out these forms and providing their personal information to the fraudsters to get COVID tested. Of course, the fraudsters went through the charade of testing, but they also walked away with your personal information, and identities get stolen that way. There's a ton of money lost to fraud. Here, just a couple of stats. This year's actually just came out. It was close to 5 billion. I didn't have a chance to update the slide, but online shopping, we've got reports from women. I don't have any men reports, but they're all women that have lost money to online phony shopping sites. So imposter sites. It looks like they're legit. You give them your credit card information, do the whole 9 yards through the purchase, and even get a confirmation number, but it's actually a fraudulent website. So they lose the money and they still don't get the goods. And then the fraudster has access to your credit cards. Just as an aside, if you think that you have exposed your personal information, you can run one of your credit reports. You get one free a year. And I still think you get 3 free now through April because of COVID. Equifax, TransUnion, and I can't remember the other one. Anyway, you can Google it, run them, and see if anything's been hit. And you can also put a credit freeze on your account. And there's an option to indicate that there's potential fraud. So credit card companies or other companies tapping your credit will be aware of that. Y'all talk to me a lot about that. I've got phone calls on that. Investment frauds. If you're out there doing your investing thing, which I hope you all will, just be aware that there's a lot going on with promissory notes, oil and gas. Ponzi is still out there. Basically, just don't give your money to anybody without verifying that they are an investment professional, or it's something that you've really conducted a lot of due diligence on. We see a lot of online scams. Just be very careful when you're on the internet. It's like I said, I've got 150 reports of scams here from last year alone. And a lot of them involve internet type frauds, clicking on boxes or not paying close attention to email addresses and things. Let's see, why do we as women, a lot of my cases do involve women. So that's why I'm not picking on us, but the majority of the cases that I'm going to talk about have involved women that are victims, especially in the South. We are so hospitable and we don't want to offend anybody. God forbid we offend somebody. which is great. I'm glad that we are the compassionate gender, and we should continue to do that. And we shouldn't be distrustful of everybody, but we should learn how to say no, and we should stop and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's all I do. I don't know everything. I'm constantly asking somebody a question and figuring out what's going on. But a lot of these fraudsters demonstrate authority. They walk the walk, talk the talk, and act like they know what they're doing. And so we turn over money. And I'm going to play just a minute of this.
So let's bring in David Stroud. He's
Fraudster.
Chief Executive Officer of TS Capital Partners. That is a hedge fund that specializes in commodities. David, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Julie. Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming in. Let's talk about gold first, because obviously this has been a
So
hot
this
topic
guy is out of Lee County.
this week. Now people sell
He's
off
already
gold.
served his
The
time.
margin requirements
He's on Bloomberg.
went up. It seems like the CME is trying to squelch the move.
Before that,
Yep.
before that happened, this is
Fraud.
This is very interesting. We started watching the volume of gold. I have something that I look at on my screen every day.
So he's going to
Notice
talk about
10 days ago
what he
gold
thinks
was
he
trading
knows.
about 8 times its normal volume for the past 3 months. Then the next day it did the same thing.
And
the volume
You
continues
can
to go
see,
higher
you can
and
see
higher on
where
the
it's
bottom.
continuing to move higher and higher and higher. And on about
he stole
the
$6 million
10th day,
from people,
that's
by the
when
way.
correction happened. So there was a bit of a warning there in the gold market as people continue to get in there and buy gold and push the price up.
So in other words,
Yeah.
people should watch not just the price, but the volume.
All right, watch
of
this
investors
bottom
getting
line
into
here.
gold. If they're trying to not only see what's going to happen with gold,
Stroud, he's talking
perhaps
about
have some
gold.
predictive power for the equity markets as well.
Very important. I think the commodity space,
Which
period,
is
and
usually
gold
BS
right
from
there, as
fraudster,
we can see, was
and in this
was,
case it is, but
incredibly
We're going to
accurate
give his
indicator.
history. TS Capital Partners CEO.
I don't think we were
He's a
going
former
back
Lehman
and
Brothers
making sure
portfolio
people see
manager.
that, but I don't think that
But wait,
gold has had
he's
that
also
much
world
volume over
champion
that period of
Ironman.
time.
So let's bring in
They are so full of themselves. They're so bold. Half of that was just crap. He lied about several things, but he did serve time, and he stole approximately $6 million. So you just have to be careful. And a lot of these guys are smooth, and they talk the talk and they won't. The securities fraud is what we prosecute here in Alabama and nationally, but here at the Alabama Securities Commission, they're the types of cases. So it's any type of fraud in connection with your investment. So if you suspect any of this has happened, y'all call me. We'll talk about it. But it is a Class B criminal violation here in Alabama. There are a lot of other charges. In Alabama, you do have to be registered to engage in the securities industry. Failure to register is a Class C felony. There are a couple of exemptions federally, federal exemptions, but typically if you don't register to sell the products and the products themselves aren't registered, that's a Class C felony. There are other charges. If I've had calls from y'all about potential thefts and forgeries and things, but just call if you have any questions. I want to talk to y'all about romance scams, women, because we are primarily the victim here. Although we've had a few men, one up in North Alabama recently that lost $1 million to a female scam artist, but it mostly involves us as women and victims, all ages. You say it'll never happen to you, but it has happened to young women here in this area. One of the new things that we're seeing, and I wanted to point out, which is kind of neat in a bad way, but you wonder how this happens, is the fraudsters are getting our females, mostly our older females, to take money to Bitcoin ATMs, which are opening up all over town. Here's a picture of one here. And their fraudsters are telling a couple of cases I got here, 78-year-old woman to take the money to the Bitcoin machine. Fraudster gives her specific instructions, and she's basically laundering the money for him. And so this stuff is going on in our community. And I know I'm looking at time. And Heather, how are we doing? We got a few minutes. Oh, wait, sorry, you're still on mute.
You have about 5 minutes, and then we'll have a few more minutes for questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna skip around to a couple of things, but just know romance scams, y'all. I know you're not gonna fall part of this, but you can, because I've had the reports. I won't play the video of this lady. There's a couple of other types of frauds and things, but let me go back. There's just a second. Sorry, guys. is there securities violations, money transmission. There's some things that us as women can help with in this community. And this is just such an important issue. So I wanted to include, I kept this slide in from a presentation to the District Attorneys Association, but we have so many of our senior citizens fallen prey to scams, to fraudsters that are worming their way into their lives, into our victims' lives, and taking control of their finances. And like I said, Montgomery County, we've got 3 or 4 active cases. Watauga County, I've got 2 up there. You know, a lot of them across the state, but just locally. So if you've got parents, you know, loved ones, members of your church, stay involved with their lives if they don't have anybody. You know, touch base with them from time to time and just ask questions about what they're doing. And if y'all that are in the financial industry see something suspicious, call. It never hurts to call and ask, or to report, and just to see if something's being done. Just last week, we had a lady lose $70,000 to fraud, an older lady, but you just don't know. And I've been on several of these medical panels with doctors who say that the frontal cortex is the first part of the brain to start deteriorating. And although we can have conversations about politics and, you know, remember that we gardened all day yesterday or what we had for breakfast, our financial reasoning and judgment is the first area to decline. So there are people in this community that do appear to have it all together all the time, but that are falling victim to these scams. And so that's just an outreach push for me. And because I think you guys are involved in the community and you know a lot of folks, and you can help with that and raise awareness. So back to women in finance. I had several here. I don't know how to go back to the beginning, but a takeaway here is, ladies, if you don't have an investment account, I suggest you open one. If 401k, if you're with your employer, match as much as you can right now. You're young, you can still earn. You have a lot of earning potential. And if you don't have one with an employer, open an IRA. And there are several. I mean, like I said, I have Charles Schwab, but every financial company offers an IRA. You can go with a Roth or just a regular IRA. There are differences, but if you want to consult somebody, call me. I'll talk to you about it. I'm not going to give you investment advice, but I'll be glad to share. And then just get involved with your finances. The more you stay involved and you start reading, you know, the financial indexes, NASDAQ, the Dow, S&P, there's 5,000 of them out there, but you start to acquire information, and it is a confidence builder. And since confidence is part of our problem, just immersing yourself sort of in this financial world will help you feel more confident going forward and making investment decisions. If you're married, you know, and your spouse is typically the one providing all the financial, doing the finances for the household, ask questions. Just ask to take a look at where you are, you know, look at your credit card statements. And that's okay, because everybody divvies up tasks. That's a good one to divvy up and to pass along. But you never know what will happen. And if you're in a situation where you need to know, you'd rather not be in that situation if you can avoid it. Because we see it all the time up here, women who are left trying to figure out, you know, the state of their financial affairs. So get involved in that way. And if you're starting out investing, then like I said, just I suggest open an account and just going for it. Just dive right in, and you learn as you go. But mutual funds, ETFs are a safe way to get started. I have a question here, and so I don't want to.
I can you mean if you like to, yeah.
No. So admitting, yes, if you're a victim of fraud, admitting it. I've talked with several victims, and they're embarrassed to come forward, especially the women. And there have been instances where we've gone out and met with them on multiple occasions for hours to assure them that nobody's done anything wrong, and that these fraudsters, they're so good. We have victims that are doctors, that are lawyers, that are accountants, engineers that have become a victim of a product that he or she may have worked on for years. So, you know, these are crimes of trust, and that's the most heartbreaking feature of a fraud is that once you destroy trust, it's hard to build back. And especially, down here in the South, I know it's something that's important for us, and you don't want to lose trust in your fellow man. So don't be embarrassed. I know it's easier said than done, but somebody else is responsible for that. And emotions sometimes take over. Several of our victims became victims during really difficult times in their lives. They either lost a family member, a loved one, depression set in, and they were depressed. Life was just happening. And so, we tend to be more vulnerable during those times. And just don't be embarrassed. Can't tell you how many people have lost money around here, members of our community. And thankfully they did come forward because we were able to apprehend some of the criminals in some of these cases. And we don't want those bad eggs out there. But like I said, if you contact me, our conversations are confidential, and I'll help you any way that I can, or any of us around here. There's a great law enforcement community, but especially here at the Securities Commission. And there are others that you can talk to as well. I don't know. I can provide Junior League a list of resources and beginner's investment checklist. So I'll get that together, and y'all can maybe pass it out Friday, or I can bring it to you.
That would be absolutely amazing. We would love to provide that information for our attendees and our Junior League members as well.
All right. Well, thanks. Sorry, I have a ton of information. I think that's enough for this mini session, and I hope to see y'all Friday in person. And please feel free to contact us, Alabama Securities Commission. Just ask for Amanda Senn, and I'll help you any way I can.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.